Oh, there we go. As we continue on with our Lent service here, and with looking at Lent today, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about a beautiful passage here that talks about community and community building. I mean, church, so much of church is about community. And church, I kind of see it as having two tracks. There's a content track and there's a community track, and the two have to go together. If it's easy to think, no, it's all about community. Well, the reality is that with community and content, it's you have to have them working together because it's like sharing this message. I mean, so much of Christianity is sharing a message, and sharing a message in word and in deed, and they have to go together. And so this is Jesus here talking about the need to build community and how that can look. And it's a beautiful, beautiful passage that gives us kind of a surprising way to see it. So what happens here, folks, is there's a Jesus heals a person. Big surprise, he's doing that a lot. And then also not a big surprise is he gets a lot of pushback for that healing. And that's what we're looking at today. And that's a pretty consistent rhythm, right? That somebody does some healing in the world and they get pushback on it. So yeah, I want to read that. I could talk a lot about that. So let's take a look at what it says here in Luke 11. The crowds were cynical and skeptical. Some of them said it's by the prince of devils that Jesus, casts out devils. Jesus responded, when someone stronger comes along and overpowers the supposed strong man, he carries off the spoils. And this is the key line here. Anyone who is not, quote, one will always be against me. Anyone who does not gather invariably scatters. I want to read that again. Anyone who does not gather invariably scatters. So it's I mean, there's so many beautiful layers of meaning to this. So just think again how Jesus is sort of defining sin here. It's interesting. He's not going after the person who he's healed as somehow being, evil in any way, shape, or form. What he goes after as evil is this idea of scattering. Now why would he be talking about scattering after he's just healed somebody? Well, I think sort of the subtext of this is obvious that this person had been ostracized from the group, from the community, had been pushed out. And here are all these people who are seeing Jesus invite this person in, and they're going like, oh, obviously the only way Jesus was able to heal them is because Jesus carries an unclean spirit. Jesus is demonic, and that's why Jesus is able to do that. That is crazy. And does that still happen today? It sure does, and we have to be so very careful with that. One of the most controversial things, weirdly, that we can say in our culture today and in certain circles is that, look, we're really going to work at welcoming everyone. And we're really going to work at loving everyone. Now, that may not sound controversial to your ears, but it certainly can sound controversial to a lot of people's ears, because a lot of religious bodies are based on this border control Christianity, where we've got to control the borders and decide who is in and who is out. Now, obviously, there are appropriate times for that, out of a concern for safety for the congregant, for safety for the person, et cetera, and be super careful around that. Because here's Jesus saying, I want to read that line again because I think it's so powerful. Anyone who is not one will always be against me. So here's Jesus saying, like, look, if you don't get this community thing, if you really can't work at embracing other people, you're just not going to get it. You're not going to get the message. And then he goes on to say, anyone who does not gather invariably scatters. In other words, like, if you're not building community, you're actually scattering. And it's one of those biggest challenges, because when we gather community, when we really try to gather community, and we don't do it with open edges, we do it sort of with the idea that there's a frozen chosen out there. Boy, that it ends up scattering people all over the place. It ends up sort of blowing up and creating a great deal of discord. There's just a lot to think about with this, folks. There's a lot to wonder about. There's a lot to work through, because from a Christian New Church perspective, there's a couple of really significant core teachings, actually, of Christianity as we hold it. One deals with heaven, that with each new angel, heaven becomes more perfect. Think about that for a minute. With each new angel, heaven becomes more perfect. And I think for churches, we have to hold that true. With each new person, somehow churches become more perfect. And the other line that's often quoted from Emmanuel Swedenborg is diversity is perfection. I love that idea. We tend to think of diversity. Diversity is where you get more and more of a pure state, more and more of a concentrated, homogeneous state. And here's a very different view of Christianity, one that directly aligns with this, saying like, no, actually, the more variety you have, the more perfection you have. And we see that in nature, folks. Like in nature, it's so significant and so incredibly important to have a variety and to have an ecosystem, so to speak. And if you don't have an ecosystem, things actually become very, very vulnerable. That's interesting, and that is very counterintuitive. Monoculture does not work well in the natural world. A diverse ecosystem is what works. Why does it work? Because that's how God set it up. That's how He set it up. That's how He set it up. So, folks, today, the task is I'm going to try to do a little bit tonight myself. Just build a little community. I don't care what it is. This is what I'm doing tonight so that you guys know I'm on the hook tonight. So, tonight, I'm not a huge basketball fan, but I know there's a big local Philadelphia college basketball game in the college playoffs. So, I'm going to put on Facebook if anybody would like to join me to watch that. I would be glad to. They just have to name the place and I'll be there. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I don't know what it is for you, but just try to do a little tiny community building thing. And it could be as simple as a text message, just as simple as that. Build a little community today. And just, who would you like to invite? Let that be your question today. Who would you invite? Who would you invite? Figure out what it's to. And just do it. Even if it's a little conversation, again, a little 5-second conversation, even that is enough for us to remember again these words. Anyone who is not one will always be against me, which means anyone who is working towards oneness, who is working towards community, will be part of the body of Christ. And that's a beautiful concept, friends. So that's my thought for today. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little meditation, a little prayer, a little blessing, and then that will be followed up by offering some comments to those of you who joined us on social media platforms. So with that, friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends. So let's take a look here. And again, I'm sorry for that little 10-second sound pause there at the beginning. Hopefully that got remedied very quickly. Now I know where that special top secret button is. All right. So let's give a cheery hello to people. Patricia, great to see you joining us this morning, and very good morning. Susan, so glad it's finally Thursday. And I don't know why Susan, but I have always loved Thursdays. Maybe it's because we have sermon writing team today. I don't know, but it sure has been a ton of fun. Kim, yes, good morning to all you calmers out there. It is great to have you joining us. And it was a super shout out to my brother-in-law who called me last night saying how much he has enjoyed these. So Darren, if I know you watched later in the day, just really appreciated the phone call. I'm glad you've joined our little community here. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Paige, very good morning to you. Susan writes, border control Christianity. I love that phrase. It's exactly what is done in those churches. It's so true. It's one of the best phrases I know. And that is Rachel Held Evans. Strongly recommend you read her. By the way, heads up, this summer, we're going to be doing a book study on my favorite book of hers, which is Searching for Sunday. And again, like, you got to love people who can spin phrases like border control Christianity. That's so good. Linda writes, border control Christianity, a judgmental and unJesus. Heaven becomes more perfect. Wow, heaven is expansive. I always knew that was perfect. I like that concept better, expanding. Yeah, and it's beautiful. And the idea that it expands to eternity. And that's Jesus's thing, right? Like, that's Jesus's thing. And it's amazing how I get tempted. Like, we just could like collapse with a few people who really got it, and then we could build. And like, oh, that doesn't seem to be what the plan is. Yeah, she's be pretty dangerous plan actually to do it that way. Sherry writes, home again. Spring has arrived in Tennessee. That is good. We're starting to see little bits and pieces of it here. Jean writes, good morning on this rainy day. You are my sunshine, and it is great. Yeah, that's a beautiful song for a day like today. Carl, always love what you write. This is what Carl writes. For me, Cursilla was an incredible opportunity to experience unity in the context of diversity. Catholics, Protestants of different denominations, people not so sure what exactly they believed, all together, listening, helping, hoping. It's so true, Carl. Like, it's pretty amazing. I mean, this is a little piece of Christian New Church theology that's a little way out there, but you can hold it for however you want to hold it. I just found it pretty fun. So one of the things that Swedenborg posited was that you don't get into heaven till you learn how to sing in a choir. And for those who can't sing, that's why it's a little laughable. But I think the point underneath that is, as he goes on to say, in a choir, no one leads per se, right? And I noticed that watching our musicians, no one's leading. They're just kind of riffing off of each other. The surrender is not a personal surrender. The surrender is to the music. And and if you can't learn to sing with other people, you can't learn to sing. And I think that's Jesus would go like, yeah, well, of course, we all need to learn those different notes and appreciate what other people bring. So God bless, my friends. Have a great day of community. Take care. Bye-bye.